ensure we maximize the full potential of your property. Call us now on 0208 952 0808 for a free no obligation quotation, or visit our website www.maxwellestates.co.uk for further information. Maxwell Estates, the name you can trust.
अगर आपकी सोशल हाउसिंग की
We are live. And good evening and welcome to another edition of the Mahtab Aziz Celebrity Lawyer Show. We've got a whole program packed with interesting stuff. And I will introduce my guests shortly. And of course, firstly, we have John Talamini.
Guilty. It's just easier that way, Matt, as my lawyer. Yeah, it's easier that way. Thank you.
Hi, John. Great to have you with us. And we also have Patricia.
Play, not guilty.
Right, okay. Great to have you. And of course, our staple guest and honored photographer, Derek Marshall.
Labadiena. I'm doing Lithuanian today.
Right.
Yeah, that means I'm the big black brother.
Right, great.
For those that know.
Great to have you with us, Derek. I think we'll start off with our John, who in fact, I have to remind listeners that he is a multi-talented person, essentially in the fields of fashion and film. And I'd like to, first of all, John, what's been happening in the film and fashion world recently?
It's changing. My John Galliano just left Martin Marigella. Dior is losing Maria Grazia. Pier Paolo has left Valentino. There seems to be a groundswell, if I can use that word, from the top of fashion, where all these new people are changing.
Right.
Even at Gucci, things are changing. Kering, who you know that we work with in our fashion podcast series, they have just sold. Come on, give me a second. They've just sold Terry Mugler.
Right.
So fashion is going through an integral upheaval from like this C-level board.
Right.
And nobody knows why.
Right.
It's just this. If I had to go to my Godfather film,
yes,
where Clemenza says to young Michael, we have to every 10 years we have to get rid of the bad blood.
Yes.
So maybe this is what's going through.
A culling of.
Yes. Not saying that they're bad blood. It's still, there is a culling.
Yes.
And it'll be interesting this season,
right,
starting in February, on what's happening and what isn't.
Right.
And I would like to think that it's going back to the older days, pre-social media, Twitter, TikToks, things like that.
Right.
And it's really getting back to the purity of fashion.
Mm-hmm.
That's yet to be seen. But it's really interesting, especially in France.
Right. And we've got next month, we've got some very important events coming up.
Yeah. We have, London Fashion Week.
Yes.
New York starts first. And New York, again, not to be a snob.
The Yanks always get in first. That's not fair.
Not to be a snob. New York in the past has always been Ralph Donner Calvin. It's like big deal, in American fashion. You may have Tommy, you might have Marc Jacobs, you might have Michael Kors, where the Yanks are so, oh my God, we're in fashion. Well, you come to Europe,
Yes.
Armani, Crizia, Fendi, Prada, Gucci, Missoni, Chanel, Dior,
right.
Valentino.
Right.
So
what you're saying is that the European brands are,
owns it.
different.
Owns it.
Yeah, yeah.
You go to Paris, the women have stepped out of a Vogue magazine. You go to Milano, the men have stepped out of a Vogue magazine.
Right. Well, what about Brownsville, New York? What would that be?
It's New York. It's like, born in New York, grew up in New York, and also, as our listeners know, as well as Nova Scotia, Canada, in the Annapolis Valley, New York is an American fashion. And again, humbly, the Americans eat too much in their plate. It really isn't a fashion moment. And not to sound like a snob, it's just the Yanks are 6 months behind what we do in Milano, Paris, even Holtzweiler in Norway.
Right.
They're Amsterdam, Berlin.
Right. Well, that's good to know, because normally the Yanks think they're 20 years ahead of us in everything. But
No. And coming into the next administration, our head of content told me I can't comment on any political things now that we're moving forward, as you know, with IMG and the British Fashion Council.
Yes.
So I have to mind my political P's and Q's.
Right. So you can't speak about China.
Yeah, right. Or eating the carrots or the mice or the dogs or the cats. Yeah, no, I'm under instructions from my staff not to say anything.
Sure. Understandable.
Yes. And it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting as well, because the British Fashion Council now has just done a sustainability where they are going to mirror what we're seeing in Copenhagen Fashion Week, where there's no fur, no animal skin, no leopards, no lions, tigers, and bears. Oh my! Thank you, Dorothy, and the Wizard of Oz. On all of that, and it's really coming back to more of that puritanical. I know that's the right word. It's more of a purist, where fashion is really now coming back to what it used to be, without all the Studio 54 parties, which I personally will miss. Europe will be interesting this season, Matt. We'll really see the Yanks will keep doing what Yanks do, and just keep moving things forward.
Right.
Where the Europeans, I can see a lot of surprises, a lot of new looks, a lot of new trends.
Yes.
Even in the colors. I always joke, and we're the happy colors of fashion, all black. Pantone, this year, their color of the year is mocha brown.
Okay.
So you're going to be looking at different colors, different styles, different lengths.
Right.
Heels will go from the 5-inch Louboutins to kitten heels. And your skirts will be a little bit above the knee, not between the knee and south of the equator. Or below the Mason and Dixon line. It'll be interesting. I really see this season in February being really interesting.
Sounds interesting, definitely. Yeah, we look forward to it next month, of course.
Yeah.
Great, thank you, John. And let's move on to Patricia. Play. Great. Play. Thank you very much. Yeah, sure. Thank you. Well, you've heard all that about fashion play. Was it something that you're in tune with, or not really your area, or is fashion something that you've been interested in, or
not in this sort of traditional sense,
right?
In terms of knowledge, more like pick and choose and kind of create from stimulation.
Can I ask, if you could just please sorry.
So I do happen to be involved sometimes with fashion shows.
Right.
I collaborate with the magazine.
Okay.
So we do specialize in creating like features about fashion weeks, global ones.
Yes.
And this is how where is my connection with it. But what I found interesting that as someone who's not like, apart from doing some part-time modeling, but not really being in the design schools or like knowing it to a depth and experience that John has.
Yes, that's right.
It's a really a wonderful stimulation for creativity.
Right.
Like looking at fashion from the place of curiosity and like a reason to put things together that make you feel great.
Yes, that's right. And of course, you're obviously you're a creator yourself, and you can tell us a bit about your skills.
Yeah, so I would just put myself under the label of a creative.
Right.
I'm one of those people who traditionally, thank God we are changing terminology nowadays, what we call like a jack of all trades.
Right.
But I do have certain sort of pathways that are kind of more on my mission.
Tell us about your book and what you do.
Right. Jackie of all trades. Oh, Jackie of all trades. Right, sorry.
Jacket, there you go. Or jacket. Depends what jacket I put on.
Right.
So actually, one of my kind of main passions kind of stems from the blend of life coaching, spirituality, my background in different forms of therapies.
Okay.
And I'm currently in the process of following my excitement.
Right.
And sharing the whole formula on following one excitement for like living our best lives.
Right.
And I am creating a book. I'm putting together a book called Play Goddess.
Very good. Very good.
Goddess is a new term that I coined. And imagine our human badass combined with our divine selves.
Right.
So that's who Goddess is.
Right.
So it's a unisex, spells differently, depending on the American English, British English.
Right.
And it's a fantastic word in terms of states, because the whole book is about an incredible phenomenon that a lot of us experience in life. Sometimes we're not aware of it, which is called synchronicities.
Right.
Are you familiar with synchronicities?
Yes.
So there's like happy coincidences.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So just in short, when we are in our goddess state, we do experience a lot of synchronicities, like the positive ones, and our life becomes more magical.
Right. Well, it sounds like we probably need all night to sort of. Sounds quite deep, quite a deep subject.
Yeah, but it's very playful.
Right. Okay.
And there is a lot of humor in it, because when you think about the word human, and the word humor, we share a hum.
Right. Well, thank you for that very nice little summary there. We'll come back to you on that. So we move on to Derek. How's things, Derek?
Very well, thank you. It's great to bump into my dear friend John Talamini.
Yes.
Gave me a text. Said, I'm on the way to the studio.
I
said, I'll pick you up. And here I am.
Right.
It was as simple as that.
Yes. Yeah, that's good. Now the thing is, you heard about fashion and you heard about creative and what Claire was talking about. Are you yourself in any way interested in fashion or
I am.
therapy?
Being a 60 chest and a 40-odd waist, I'm a bit bigger than most people. So I have to figure out what fits me, and I'm a size 14 shoes.
Right.
So I put my shoes in the garden when the builder came round, and they were my lokes and my churches. They all got eaten by foxes. There's 600 pounds of shoes.
Oh my God.
I have now bought a pair of shoes this morning for the first time.
Right.
I'm hoping my wife is not listening. They cost a fortune.
Yes.
One pair of shoes.
Right.
All the rest are trainers. I call it COVID foot.
Yes.
When you weigh 160 kilos and you walk around up and down stairs on laminate, because everyone doesn't have carpet anymore, and you just keep pounding the floor for maybe a year and a half.
Yes.
You then try and put your fitted shoes back on, and all of a sudden your feet don't fit anymore.
Yes.
Yeah? And then you try and put your trousers on. You've been wearing tracksuit bottoms for a long time.
Yeah.
And they don't fit either. Right. And then you realise you were a 38 waist and now you're a 40-something. I call it problems with COVID.
Right.
And then you realise you haven't got a room in the house because your wife's taken over the entire house.
Yes.
So you now go and live in the shed. This is COVID. This is fashion. It's now called a tracksuit bottom and loose tops.
Sheds these days are, I mean, you know yourself, you've seen sheds, the luxury sheds, so you can't really put down the sheds.
Yeah, absolutely. But on a serious note, I think I've got an old head. All of my friends would have been proud to see my mum and dad if they were still alive. Unfortunately, they're not here.
Yes.
But it would have been their 61st anniversary last week.
Oh,
and my father passed on my mum's birthday. My father actually was a tailor.
Right.
And my mum was a seamstress. And so as a child, when I came out of, everything's coming out. When I came out of care, I clinged onto my mum's leg all the time. I was only little. Believe it or not, I was very small.
Right.
But then she was a seamstress, so she'd have a tape measure around her neck. And strangely, all these beautiful women kept on coming around my house. And so I learned what a bust was, a waist and hips. And I was fascinated.
Right.
Women had a shape that men didn't have.
Yes.
And then when my dad would be making someone a suit, it would be inside leg and this, that. All of a sudden, every time a woman came around, all I could see is, I wonder what bust size she is.
Right.
And I wonder what waist she is. And I wonder how tall she is.
Yes.
Because that's what my mum used to ask everybody.
Right.
And after that, I'd walk down the street saying, size 10, 70 kilos, size 6 shoes, nice shape.
Right.
And that's every time.
But why did you become a tailor then, with all that sort of knowledge and... you didn't think of becoming a tailor? Or?
Because my dad was a photographer. So I found it was more fun taking photographs of beautiful women than not.
Yes.
So I decided that was the option, and that's led me down my slippery path.
Yeah, and you're excellent at it, I must say.
I'm still under the wing of John Talamini's wonderful eye. I'm trying to make the still image move.
Yes.
And we're in the process of still trying to put together a very important documentary about Papa's got Parkinson's.
Yes.
And I think it's going to happen next year.
Right.
But that's something we're going to be talking about on a later show.
Excellent.
Yeah,
Excellent.
absolutely.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you for that, Derek. Very interesting and some very nice anecdotal information there about when you were young. Thank you for that.
I was young once. As were you, Mahtab.
That's right.
We were all born. We were all born at a very early age.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes. It's like we didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yes, we were.
Masters of transformations.
Yeah, very small seeds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, coming back to John, now there has been news very recently of a new film that's being made about the life of the Bee Gees, and
Dear friends.
Yeah, and I know that you, of course, had personal involvement with Robin Gibb, and it'd be very interesting to hear your recollection. And
no, it's very interesting because in my younger days, when I was, my second life as a musician, played with Robert Stigwood, or was part of the Robert Stigwood organization, RSL Records. While I was a bass player, which back then you were a session cat. They would just pay you, go in, play this, and here's your 50, 100, 200 quid, and away you go.
Yeah.
And through RSO, Billy Oakes, Yvonne Ellerman, that we spoke about, Cream, Clapton, and then met the Bee Gees.
Yeah.
Way back when.
Yes.
And we were joking the other day when we were at Stiggy's apartment on the Upper West Side.
Right.
Paul Simon was our neighbor.
Right.
And we'd make so much noise. Paul Simon would have to go downstairs,
right,
bang on our door
at
like 3 a.m.
right,
and say, could you please stop playing so much music? And it's Paul Simon. It's like, excuse me, we're musicians.
Right.
Paul, if you, go to a hotel.
Yes.
So it was really interesting back then in where rock and roll was stepping into its own genre, where the Bee Gees were what they were doing, and then rock was doing what it was doing. And then you had the semblance of punk, and then heavy metal and whatnot, and then the Bee Gees moved into other areas.
Right.
Well,
can I ask you, did you ever get a chance to speak to Paul Simon? I mean, he's a very talented guy. I mean,
He
did you just go in and out, or did you
just? Again, I quote my head of content. I have to watch my political P's and Q's. Let's just say Paul, as a genius he is in music, he can also be a little persnickety.
Right, as they tend to be. Sorry.
So if you're Keith Richards, if you're Mick, or if you're Rod Stewart, who just David Gilmour from the Floyd. They were, I'm a musician and I'm just having fun and I'm happy that I get paid for what I do and what I love.
Right.
Where Paul, like Van Morrison, as we spoke about in our other interviews, they don't believe your own press. It's the kiss of death. So Paul was a bit.
Was he down to earth, or was he?
No, you were. If you met Paul, you were in Paul's world, not yours.
I see. Right.
So it was like rather
right.
In my world.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
And it was like you didn't get it.
Right.
So
well, apparently they're touring again, Paul and Art.
Yeah.
They're going to have
which is really good because the old timers, the old school, the ones that knew Simon and Garfunkel back then, and Mrs. Robinson and Sounds of Silence and everything else. It's I'm their what's the word I want? Their audience will listen to them now at this audience age. Remember what they were like when they were holding hands in the old days with their high school sweetheart and whatnot, and it brings you back that thing of nostalgia. So I completely understand how they're getting back on the road and whatnot. And as my late wife would always say, it's a paycheck film. Her being a known working actor, this is a paycheck gig where they're just coming together to bring that. I felt so good back in the 60s and 70s. Now I'm in 2025. Can I relive those? Can I relive those moments of my youth?
Yes. I mean, when they split up, I think Paul went on to have more of a successful career as
that he did. And what was really interesting, though, to his credit, Ladysmith Black Mozambo, he hooking up with them when he did Graceland, that was groundbreaking. Then that was integral, genius, and it was Paul extending himself instead of banging on our door with Stiggy, Clapton, and the Bee Gees. He really, I have to say, Graceland, for the time, was absolutely groundbreaking.
Groundbreaking,
and it's she's got diamonds on the soles of her shoes. And Homeless. And what he did with Ladysmith, for the time, again, was genius and groundbreaking.
Absolutely. And sorry, I sort of diverted you a bit there. You were speaking.
And then when we did the remake, myself and I was the studio manager. Tamara, as you know, my late wife, and when she and Robin worked together on the remake of Staying Alive, that we did with the Russian singer, pre-Ukrainian, Valeria, which is like the Russian Madonna, and we redid the where we had the remake of Staying Alive. With Robin and Valeria, and it really was well. And I have to say, this is 2010, about 2010, 2011. And it's still going to BG-esque. Still is of a new take on an old classic, if I may, of that song. Now it's just Barry living in Miami.
Well, I mean, I have to say that those songs have that longevity that I think a lot of very rare. Those songs still get played today with just as much admiration and as they were when they first came out.
What do you have today in music? You've got Beyonce. Okay. I like her Texas stuff. Taylor Swift. I don't get it. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm too old, too tired, and too cranky. I don't get it. I don't see where and what other musicians are out there except the old school of the classics. I don't. Who's out there now?
Our generation.
No.
I was gonna interject.
Who's out there now?
Nobody. Just in case, mind, but she's not going to be good. Listen,
Yeah.
I was wondering what was it that made the Bee Gees come back out, and I started dancing in my head, and it was Despicable Me. And when you see them dancing, when you watch Despicable Me, these little yellow things, and this overweight guy, and whenever he's about to kill someone, he's the most dastardly person on the planet.
Right.
He starts singing and dancing as if he's in a disco.
Right.
And I think it's the most amazing. He comes up like a Travolta, starts wiggling his hips, and everything's good again.
Right.
Why don't we? Staying alive,
staying alive.
Do you know that this talking about synchronicities?
Yeah.
There you go.
Your radio is called Revive.
Yeah.
And have you ever done like CPR training?
Jeez.
I've seen it.
That's
I've seen it
different.
taking place. I haven't actually.
It's not different at all. When I was shown, how to revive a person
Yes.
and to remember, how to keep the beat, they literally showed me ha ha.
Oh, I see.
Yes, that's true. Vinny, who's the footballer? Vinny, what's his name? Vinny.
I know you mean the
He was in Lock, Stock, and Two Barrels. Vinny Jones. It's a very famous advert where Vinny was, this is what I want you to do. Okay. Yeah. Go. So yes.
So Revive.
And it was so it was that.
Yes.
Right. So we've gone from
And Vinny's a lovely
I'll
chap.
try to keep track of.
He's a lovely chap.
Yeah.
So we've got hands on people's hearts now, right?
Mm.
Well, it all connects.
Yeah.
We are connected from
Oh yeah.
BGs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
we are interconnected species.
So there you were in the room with Robin Gibb. Obviously, it wasn't as if you were like, starstruck or anything, but I'm sure from a creative and from a musical point of view, how did you sort of regard Robin as?
It was interesting because when we were asked to be the producers of Staying Alive, I had said to the record label, I said, I know Robin. I was one of their bass players in the 70s, 80s.
Right.
And they were like, no, we didn't know that. And it was just when the web was becoming the web.
Yes.
When Google and Facebook were wet dreams.
Right.
In some algorithm's eye.
Yes.
Very true. True.
Yes.
So then when Robin and I met, he went, JT, Robin, hi, how you doing?
Right.
Oh my God, it's you. So it was really nice. And what that means is as a creative and as an intellectual, creatively, and also as a musician, once you know the person you've worked with in the past, it's that element of trust.
Yes.
And I work with that guy. Everything's cool. And humbly, I get on with everybody.
Yes.
It wasn't until my later years that I had an opinion. But back then I was fine. I loved everybody.
Yes. Yes.
So
yes.
Unlike now, sorry. Yes. So it was really, it was humbling, and it was really nice when Dwina, his wife, and we met, and we were at their home. I'm going to say the Cotswolds, not quite the Cotswolds, and their home, true story, is where it was a refurbished abbey.
Right.
In where the three priests in the abbey decided that Joan of Arc would be burned at the stake.
Right.
It came from there, where Robin's house still is.
Right.
With Dwina and his family.
I see.
So it was really a bit of history. It was really cool. And when we did it with him and with Valeria, it was really, really interesting. It was real and ethereal.
Right.
It was nice going back to the old days, but now getting into the new days. Because again, as a musician, an actor, a creative, you always have to stay fresh.
Yes.
You're only as good as your last hit.
Yes.
You're only as good as your last film. You're only as good as your last podcast. You're only as good as your last bottle of wine that you made.
Yes.
So
but the amazing thing I found was that that film, Saturday Night Fever, if you had heard the Bee Gees prior to that, I could never imagine them being the band that's going to do the songs in Saturday Night Fever. Because if you look at a previous, catalogue of music, wasn't that a genius move?
This was the brilliance of Robert Stigwood.
Yeah.
This is what Stiggy did. And the drummer, Artie von Blumberg, who and I just got reacquainted thanks to social media. A lot of great things happen by accident. Nobody, there wasn't a budget. There wasn't this, there wasn't that. And just the Bee Gees and Travolta, and it just, that's how it all came about. Like what we talked about with Richard Gere and American Gigolo. And if you remember in one of our prior episodes, Matt, it was Mr. Armani's partner at the time was head of PR at Paramount for all of Europe. And they said, look, so he goes from Milano, flies to LA, and they say, look, we're doing a film. It's about a male prostitute. It's some unknown actor. We don't have a big budget. And this male has got to wear clothes to entice the ladies. And we don't have a clothes budget at all.
Right.
Mr. Armani's partner, head of PR, runs back to Milano. Giorgio, at the time, he was a window dresser at Riuscente, which is the John Lewis right next to the Duomo. And he said, pack all your suits and everything, put them in a case. We're going to Los Angeles. What are we doing in Los Angeles? I don't know. There's some movie that you're doing. At the end of the day, it was Giorgio Armani dressed Richard Gere. And the next day, Saks Fifth Avenue ordered 5 million outfits. And that's what put Mr. Armani on the map. And that's what changed men's fashion as we know it today. All by accident. Like the Bee Gees and Saturday Night. Stiggy took an unknown. Now, Travolta at the time, before he had his breakout, he was in, if I'm not wrong, Mr. Carter's TV show, Mr. Carter's School or something. And Travolta was like Vinny, the wise guy. Hey, yo, how you doing, Mr. Carter? Hey, I'm over here, over there. Forget about it.
Yes.
And then he had a breakout in his film, moving his career forward. That's how he got the gig. And then the Bee Gees were on RSO's label. RSO had the album rights to the film. And that's how Saturday Night Fever came about. And it was just one of these moments where you as a creative, you as an intellect, you know in your gut. When you sleep at night with both eyes closed, you just know it's going to happen. And this is what separates, again, in my opinion, being old school, this is what separates the influencers, the Twitter twatters, the TikTokers, and all the people using their phone instead of their mobile to talk to people. You just know what's going to happen. It's almost like you would say creatively it's almost osmosis. So you just know in that moment of relativity, if I can use that word, where it just becomes, I get it. I'm in the groove. I'm in the moment. It's how it happens.
Yes. I mean, the fact that they were brothers. How did that influence the way they actually harmonized? Do you think that was actually?
They were brothers. They fought like crazy. Robin, Maurice, the younger one, Barry, and brothers. I haven't met
the creative process.
Exactly. Yes. Right. And again, creatively, going back to Travolta, he had an incredible run after Saturday Night, and then he dropped off the face of the earth. Because that look, that and all of that, as time went on, he didn't keep up, or his persona was not wanted in Hollywood. And he fell off the radar.
Well, he did come back.
Until the greatest comeback. Thank you, Quentin. With John and Sam Jackson. Was it Sam Jackson?
Samuel L. Jackson, Pulp Fiction.
Pulp Fiction. That's brought him back where Travolta is now.
No, but before that, I have to remind you, and I'll give you the reason why I remind you, is because before that was, of course, Grease.
Yes.
Grease was
so
huge
from Saturday Night into Grease.
Yeah.
And then he was that fresh-faced, all-American boy.
Yes, that's right.
And then the world changed. You're absolutely right. Yes.
And the reason why I remember Grease is that one day I was walking down, because in those days, obviously, I looked more handsome and whatever. And I was walking down the road, and I remember that there was a woman who was pushing this like pushchair or something, and the kid said, "Mom, yes, John Travolta." What do you mean? Because I was wearing a black T-shirt, and my hair at that time was a bit more.
Yeah.
And he said, "Mom," I thought, "Oh, that's cool."
I have actually seen a picture of him with the president of Pakistan, and I have to tell you, he was a handsome so-and-so.
Yeah,
Right.
no, it was,
Yeah.
and then he lost, or he didn't lose it.
Yeah.
The film fickle public
Yes.
is unlike it is now. Didn't want, and Hollywood didn't want to cast the all-American boy.
Yes.
So he lost out on a lot of things. Oh, it's the guy from Grease. It's the guy from Saturday Night Fever. Until Pulp Fiction,
Right.
where Tarantino, again, no budget, no this, had the idea of doing a white guy and a black guy as hitmen, and untangled, and what Tarantino did,
Right.
and that was John's comeback.
Yes.
And
it could be that being
was his comeback.
Yeah, being from the Scientology sort of church, I think perhaps he himself didn't want to do something. That's absolutely
Again, it was Scientology, and him and Tom Cruise and whatnot. It's like, okay, guys, that's what you do. Me, and I always joke, I am spiritual, not religious, and the only time I pray is during turbulence, which is why I take Eurostar.
Yeah.
Thank you. Just keep me on the train.
Great. Well, moving on to thank you very much for that.
Yeah,
moving on to Derek. Derek, we spoke about brothers and harmony. What group comes to mind when you speak of brothers and harmony?
I have a really strange set of family.
Yeah.
And what people don't know, just last week I was at a funeral.
Sorry.
I was at a funeral last week. And,
yes.
Yes. The person that inspired me and my family to sing was actually the lead singer of Boney M, Liz Mitchell.
Ah, of course.
So I was in a choir and very shy and at the back of the church.
Right.
Mary's Boy Child and all those kind of songs, which were equally prevalent at that time.
Of course. Rivers of Babylon,
Yeah, there weren't many bands as big as Boney M, except for the Bee Gees.
Yes.
And they were the epitomes of that moment.
Right. Well, I was slightly alluding to a group of 5 young men.
Oh, the Jacksons? No, they had their moment by then.
Right.
Yeah, everyone was bored of the curly perm by then.
Right.
But what was really emerging then, as I would say, going back to one of our really good friends, Muhammad Ali, was rap.
Yes.
So the 80s came out and you went from being rather slick and sweet and shuffling around the dance floor, which is what I used to do. And all of a sudden I had to stop doing the curly perm and have tram lines.
Right.
And it was Vanilla Ice and it was hip hop. And I was like, well, where's all my shiny shit? Shiny put the wardrobe on. And I was now wearing a bandana and some loose baggy pants.
Yes.
Everything went really aggressively different. And there was a lot of going on in the world in 1981, 82. Perestroika. Civil rights was getting a bit messy. People were ready to bomb Grenada where my parents lived.
Right.
Reagan. Yes. There was a lot going on. So I think people became...
Don't forget Bonzo. Yeah.
Sorry?
Don't forget Bonzo. I said with Reagan.
Well, I would almost say that we're heading back to a really crazy stage right now.
Yes.
Almost as mad as it was in the 80s.
Yeah.
Early 80s, which unfortunately you remember better than me.
Yeah.
Now, I was just thinking, number one, I would love John to style those 2 crazy people that are in America.
Yeah.
Going to be running America. And one is his name is, I think it's Donald Trump.
Right.
And apparently the new version 2 is a lot sharper. I'm not too sure how you do that, but apparently it's true.
Yeah.
And then Elon Musk.
Right.
So during all of the pitter-patter of the last hour, I thought I'd just find out a few facts.
Yes.
I had no idea how much money Elon Musk was really worth.
Yes.
And I had no idea how little Trump was actually worth.
Right.
Trump is worth 6.8 billion. That's all.
No, he's not.
Well,
that's all. Yeah, that's all.
And Elon is worth 434.9.
Right.
But Elon came from nothing, and I think Trump came from something.
Yes.
Because I believe his father owned Coney Island. So if you can only be a 6.8 billionaire when you started off life with a golden spoon and a suntan.
Yes.
South Africa.
Yes. And even that was actually disputed because there was a court case, and they actually disputed the amount of money he said that he was worth. He seemed to have came out of it.
Trump?
Yeah, that's right.
He's got 34 convictions. He's the first person. He's the first person to be an American president to go into the office as a convicted felon.
Yeah.
Ouch.
I rest my case. I have and
I take it you're not a fan, John?
That's why I take you back to yourself, guys. I think that this is a beautiful divine orchestration. I actually have my own theory on those things.
Okay, shoot.
Go shoot, play.
And I actually believe that, someone like Mr. Trump became president.
Yes.
So that we can trump back to ourselves because we give our authority away to a lot of figures.
Yes.
And the truth being is that, the only people who we have power in our reality are us.
Yes.
And it's the narrative that we give ourselves. And if we believe that other people, in power, like have greater power over us than us, then we right. Because that's how reality works. What you believe in becomes a reality.
Yes.
And if you think about the word belief, there is a big lie in it.
Right.
B, lie, and V.
Yeah, I do agree. I do agree. He's there so people can wake up and say, well, gee, you said eggs would go from 8 quid to 2 quid because you're going to cut my grocery bills. Now my eggs are 22 quid.
Yes.
What happened? You were going to end the war in an hour. You didn't. You were already saying, well, I might have been misspoke. So whatever you said to get voted in, you're absolutely right. In believe, lie, and whatever you said getting voted in, I would say within 6 months, people will realize, did I really make that big of a mistake? And it'll be interesting to see what America goes through. Because right now, America is divided that I've never seen it. And thank goodness, and thank you, Mom, I'm only half American. And as we all know, to our listeners out there and our colleagues, I'm American and Canadian. And I'm always going to play on the side of Canada.
Well, what do you think about his offer to Canada to become the 51st state?
I think he just wants to create unity. It's all about unity.
No.
Diversity. Come on, can you see that the universe has got a wicked sense of humor?
There's
some stuff you
Canada,
can't take it seriously.
Greenland, Mexico. I mean, he says he doesn't drink, except for Diet Coke. Well, whatever's in the Kool-Aid or Diet Coke, he should have a bit less. And he should also lose it. And he should also lose about 2 stone. So,
you've had experience of Canada, having lived in Canada. You also had experience of America. What's the sort of dichotomy there? What would prevent them from getting on? I mean, if they were like two fellows in the same boat, how would Canadians and Americans differ?
Canadians are more honest, real, quiet. They're like, if Australia is America and New Zealand is Canada, it's like the Aussies and the Kiwis. It's the Aussies are really, they're really boisterous and g'day, and it's this, and the Kiwis just move on.
Chill down,
just quiet, chill, and I mean, even in my family in Canada, my cousin Randy and I are still close. And when he comes down to London with his wife, and we talk about Mom and Aunt Pauline, his mom, and it's just normal stuff where you talk to somebody in America, it's always flag waving and fist bumping in the air. And, we're the best USA, and it's no longer.
John, I've got a question I've always wanted to ask somebody like you.
Shoot.
There's this place called Alaska.
Yeah.
And Alaska is kind of close to Russia.
Yeah.
And there's this big space in between Alaska and America. It's called Canada. How does that work? Because Alaska's up there, and they're Alaskans. Are they not really Canadians, or are they actually Russians that have swam across? Because what is an Alaskan?
Alaska, if I remember my history, in the 1800s or something, after America bought the Louisiana Purchase from France, so Napoleon could finance the war.
What's Napoleon got to do in Alaska?
We are connected.
It's coming. So in the Louisiana Purchase, from going down either side of the Mississippi, was all owned by France. And Texas was owned by Mexico, as was California. America wanted its manifest destiny, sea to shining sea. So they got the East Coast, the 13 original colonies, and then they started moving west, and they wanted that big clump. And they bought it for, I don't know, 13, 14 million at the time, which is like a gazillion now, and Napoleon could finance his war. Then with Alaska, America was nervous about it being the Aleutian Islands, so close to Russia. America wanted that, rah, 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 we need that land to be ours. So Alaska was part of, I believe, Russia at the time. Canada didn't care about it, and it was indigenous Canadians,
right,
like the original Americans. And America bought that, annexed it, and Canada said, well, you have that, we'll have this is us, and left us alone.
So they wanted to prevent the Russians coming through the back door then?
Yeah.
Shut the back door. Right.
Yeah.
Well spotted, Derek. Well spotted. I have to give you credit for that.
You know, the back door's still there, though.
Yeah. Well,
so what the Alaskans going to do? Keep them out the polar bears?
No, it's just
Trump living there?
It's and again, it's for us in Europe. And
are you in Europe or Alaska? I don't know where you're from, John T. I'm very confused.
Born in New York City, grew up in Canada. Yes. And if you look at, and as a European living here
in Canada.
No, as a European living here in Europe for the last 25 years and being part of the English European and then part of the fashion world, as you know, and then part of just the European ensconced in.
Yes.
I will have my roots in Canada, living in England, and part of the Commonwealth. And it's just, again, I struggle on my American side, where I understand why. America is now almost a third world country. They dominated the 20th century. World War I, World War II, Pearl Harbor, the bomb, everything else, and America was the place to be. In the 21st century, it will be China, whether we like it or not.
I think you should say China.
Yeah. China and cats, and they're eating.
Say things like that.
And they're eating.
I know.
You know,
you're just so judgmental. You're sitting next to someone who
No, I'm not being judgmental. I'm just quoting someone.
You're hashing the judge for a living.
Yes.
Quoting someone with orange
the
hair.
cats. And it's ridiculous. And China will dominate the 21st century. Europe is getting it. This individual who is going to be president on Monday, and wanting to drop out of NATO. All the NATO countries are like, who cares? You know.
Well, apparently he's going to have the village people singing.
Oh, great.
Oh, wow. That's going to be fun.
And now apparently in the news, his great outdoor inauguration, because of the cold weather. Yes, there is a God. Okay. Now they're all going to go inside because it'll be too cold out.
Is it going to be stormy?
Right.
Yes. So
let's quickly hear from the European amidst us.
Yes,
very central, because I'm like, split between the pool as well.
Yes, that's right. So what's your position and view on what's happening in America, how it affects Europeans, or does it affect Europeans at all?
You know what? I don't watch the news.
Right.
Why not? It's entertaining.
I only read the headlines.
It's been boring as
I create news.
Years.
Right.
Yeah, but not like Trump. Trump is news. When you switch on the radio, something interesting, he'll come out with something stupid.
Right.
And now we've got him and Elon.
Exactly. That's why he became the president.
Most entertaining
exactly.
presidency of all time.
Can you see why he became a president?
Entertain us all.
Exactly.
And sometimes,
that's why I can't take it seriously.
That's right. And sometimes not intentionally. He's entertaining, not intentionally. And
he knows he's entertaining.
Yeah.
Listen, it's a meaningless universe.
If you look at his press conferences, the way he handles the press conference, you sit down. I didn't ask you. Sit down. Sorry,
he's him. And
that's why you can't take the guy seriously.
But then you can, because he's honest.
Right.
He shoots from the
You
hip.
mean he's honest that he's coming from those regions of his brain which do not take compassion into account?
No, whichever. Whatever.
But equally, he does pay some service to
what do they call him? What do they say? Constipation of the brain.
Yeah.
No, constipation of the brain and diarrhea of the mouth. I would say the president-elect would be a good place to start from. And people are misunderstood because they think that's a hero.
Right.
Where a politician is almost like a priest. You've got to be nice to everybody. And as a politician, when you're not giving candy to babies, you're stealing it. So you have to figure out how you're going to do it.
But it's a one big game. So you know, if you literally just see it as a reality simulation, then you can free yourself from judgment.
Is there a European equivalent of the Donald at the moment in Europe? Is there an equivalent?
You see me as a
source
of information. I'm a Briton.
Right.
Brutally speaking, I'm a British Pole. I haven't lived in Poland for quite some time.
Oh, right.
So, and despite being a graduate of the political science department, I have no interest in politics whatsoever.
Oh, I see. Oh, that's
so I'm totally a metaphysical person. Ask me about multiverses and
Sri Shimnoi, ethereal plane, yes,
and everything playful.
Yeah,
absolutely is.
I've been to Poland. I've been to Wrocław. And I've been to Warsaw. Very nice places. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we are just one of the climbing economies in Europe.
Yeah,
we're doing much better than Britain. I don't know why I'm still here.
Sure. Okay. So Derek, coming back to you then. So you were speaking about Boney M. And their wonderful music, and I think we have to admit that the late 70s, all of the 80s, early 90s will never be repeated, because that talent and that outlook, I think, is going to be very difficult to recreate.
Totally agree. I think music and fashion. I think that was why John is the way he's such an amazing person, because he saw and lived a life in each of those lives. So he's in that disco thing.
Yes.
And he had the fashion, looking at his fashion and wondering, how did I dress like this?
Yes.
And then he started to make, after he finished making the music, he started making films, looking back on that career, going back a few years, and then looked exactly forward and said, actually, I don't want to follow fashion, I want to make fashion.
Yes.
And so then became friends with all the fashionistas of the world. So, I mean,
all we do is report. All we do is tell positive, fun stories.
As well. And that's when I met you. I was just like, when you were talking about your friend, I was with John the night that Paul Soverino died.
Yeah.
And John was pissed. Upset.
Right.
And
rather chagrined.
Okay.
How's that? I was rather chagrined.
We shared a few bottles of red at Victoria Station at a very well-known establishment.
Yes.
And that was the start of our very, very, very amazing relationship.
Right.
And it's just like when you know people like that, when you see them disappearing, it is kind of funny, because all of those people are all greats, and one by one, you when you see them go, you think, just like when 9/11 happened, you think, where was I when so-and-so and Nelson, and these people are those people, and all of these so-called disposable stars that come along, even though they're rich and they've got a billion people watching them, what is their number one song? Were they part of a film, which was part of a fashion, which was everything?
Right.
And that's what we were talking about with, I just found a statement that everyone overdosed on disco because of the Bee Gees.
Right.
Because it was a fashion. And then it was Grease. And then after that, it was Saturday Night Fever.
Right.
And John Travolta. It was, and then who didn't love Olivia Newton-John? Because she was just unbelievably gorgeous.
Unbelievable.
So at the end of all of that, along came hip-hop, because we had to be boys again.
Right.
We were full of pretty, silky, glossy 70s.
Yeah.
And then...
but you know what broke hip-hop?
No. Nothing.
Yes. No. I was there with Liba Krebs, with Aerosmith.
Right.
I was there. Noah Love was with Aerosmith. I was there with B.B. Buell, just gave birth to Liv Tyler, and I was on 52nd Street. I was there, East Side, in Liba Krebs' office, and Run DMC's manager said, we want to try a crossover piece of music, true story, with this band Run DMC, and we're rap. And I remember Steve saying, "What's rap?" And Aerosmith, like Travolta, was going through a slump.
Right.
So Walk This Way, Run DMC and Aerosmith brought Aerosmith back, and the rest is history, and that's why we got Goosebumps. That's, you know.
Right. Well, I'm afraid we've run out of time, guys. Run out of time.
Walk this way,
it's been
talk this way, walk this way. Yeah.
We've had a great time.
Did you play the bass on that?
No, I didn't. I was
sure?
I was in my business end of music. No. I was in the producer end. When I was working with Chic and Nile Rodgers.
Yeah. Well, I think we must come back. I think after the fashion.
Yes.
After the fashion.
Yes.
It'd be nice to have Play with us. Isn't she nice?
Yes. Yeah.
Hi, Play.
Isn't she lovely?
Yes, she is. She is.
All right, guys. Thank you, John. Thank you, John. As always.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, Play.
Thank you,
Derek.
Thank you.
We'll see you on the flip side.
Yep, it's been a great show because of all of you. Now I'm going to sign off and say to everyone that I hope to have you back again next week,
New Year, everyone.
Friday.
Yes, Happy New
And,
Year.
Happy
Let's
New Year
revive.
to everyone. And
Yes.
this is Mahtab Aziz signing off the Celebrity Lawyer Show.